Hey there, everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave from thedarkstuff.com and the Dark Stuff channel here on YouTube. So Kiss ended last night. I wasn't in New York. I did do the pay-per-view. I have some thoughts on it and on the new announcement about the future of Kiss. It hasn't even been 24 hours, and the internet is, all over the place with speculation about what was happening last night and the future of Kiss and all that. And I just wanted to do a quick video. I'm going to try and limit this to like 5 or 6 minutes, give you my thoughts on the pay-per-view, and then on the announcement about Avatar Kiss. In my last Kiss video, I was speculating whether I was going to do the pay-per-view. I decided to do it the day of, and all things considered, I'm glad I did. Now, I was seeing online that people were complaining about a little bit of lagging and they couldn't log in or whatever. I had no problem whatsoever. PPV.com did a fantastic job. The way I watch stuff is, I don't know if you can see it back here, but so I have an actual computer and I use the TV there as kind of like a monitor. So the sound goes through my sound system. The screen is my monitor, and then I just use a web browser. So I just went to ppv.com and I could watch it in high def and didn't have a glitch or an issue the entire time. So I thought that part of it was absolutely no problem. I spent the better part of Saturday afternoon posting all sorts of pictures of me with Kiss and pictures of my setup for when I was going to watch the pay-per-view, all over on Three Sides of the Coin's Facebook page. Now, if you are familiar with Three Sides of the Coin, it's a very popular Kiss-oriented podcast. So my postings were going over pretty well. I was getting tons of likes, tons of comments and everything because I was very enthusiastic. Now, this video I'm not going to share on Three Sides of the Coin because it's not quite as enthusiastic, and most of the listeners sort of have this attitude of Gene and Paul can do no wrong, and if you are in any way critical or if you in any way don't toe the party line, they shit on you and call you a hater and stuff like that. So it's fine. People are entitled to their opinion. I'm also entitled to mine. And anyways, I went into it with a very, very open mind. Okay, I was ready to have a great time. I thought the pre-show stuff was, I don't know, it was too cutesy for me. It was some interviews with the band, but it was just some woman who I guess used to be a big deal at Spotify hyping up the crowd going, is this going to be the greatest show ever? Yeah, I mean, okay, that's what she got paid to do. They brought out some of the kids, Evan Stanley, whose band opened the show, his band Amber Wild, was there. Nick Simmons and his daughter Sophie Simmons were there. They interviewed Gene's wife, Shannon Tweed Simmons. All that's fine. I don't really needed to see any of that, and I feel like you're going to bring on Tommy Thayer's daughter, who we just learned existed as of just a couple years ago, but there's still no mention of any former member of the band whatsoever. I mean, I find that kind of confusing. You're celebrating Kiss, but who cares about their offspring? Okay, and I have nothing against those guys. I've heard that Evan Stanley's band is actually really good, and the little clips I've seen, he does seem like a pretty great guitar player, but it's irrelevant. So the pay-per-view thing was fine. The show started, and here's where we have a problem. So Paul's voice was just not there. Okay, and I don't know whether he is 71 years old, and it's tough on a singer. And we know just a week before or so, they had to cancel a couple of shows because he got the flu. I'm thinking it's more like a pneumonia, but who knows? But it took him out for a week, and they had to cancel shows. His voice had not recovered. It's just a stone cold fact. Whether you were there in the arena or whether you were watching it on pay-per-view, I don't see how you couldn't have noticed that.
Here we are. Kiss Army, New York. I want to come out there and be with you.
So, the show opens with Detroit Rock City, and Paul's voice was it was not there. It was bad. Okay. Everything else sounded fine. The band sounded a little sloppy at first, which is surprising, but I chalked that up to kind of nerves maybe. They go from Detroit Rock City into Shout It Out Loud, and Paul's voice, again, kind of hurting. They do Deuce and War Machine, so 2 songs where Gene gets to sing, so you think that's giving Paul a rest. But really, by the time you hit, like, Say Yeah, which is, I think, Paul's 3rd or 4th time at vocals, the vocals were magically improved. I don't have any actual evidence of this. This was just my ears, okay? And I don't know if they're going to touch up future plays of their pay-per-view. They definitely 100%, if they make this into a live album, will touch that up. I mean, there's no question that they'll touch that up. They have to, okay? It was rough. And honestly, when they switched to the enhanced vocals for Paul, it made it much better because it stopped being distracting. Now, I've never said that about an artist, that I would rather have some type of pre-recorded vocal assistance, but he needed it. It had to be there, okay? You know, when you're talking and you're saying, you know, New York, we love you, and he sounds hoarse and the words can barely get out, but then when you sing and it's essentially okay, you have to just acknowledge the obvious, okay? Gene sounded great. I'm assuming Eric Singer sang Beth at the end, and he sounded fine. So Paul's voice was just not back yet. It was not recovered, but there's no way to postpone your final show. That's all I'm going to say on that subject. I don't really think it's open for debate, but feel free if you want to. You know, as far as the set list goes, I've seen some chatter online about, it's the same exact set list they've been doing for 20 some odd years. That is true, give or take a song or two. And I do think when it's your last show, you should do something special. It's not just another show. And I know a lot of apologists online were saying, well, what did you expect? Of course they're going to do it. That's Kiss. You know, it's like, it's not Kiss to be disappointing all the time. I mean, this was the last show ever. It doesn't have to be the same as even the night before or the night before that. I mean, this is your last show ever. So it's not just a simple another show. I mean, okay, it's just not true. They could have fit extra songs in. You know, at the end of Lick It Up, they did this bit of Won't Get Fooled Again, an instrumental passage from that. Could have taken that out. They used to play that song on the Asylum tour. They did Making Love, which is a nice addition, by the way. Kudos to that. But then they had this Paul and Tommy doing dueling guitar solos, which I thought was a waste of time. Then you have the drum solos and all of that stuff, and that's, they're going to do that. There's no way they're not going to. 100,000 Years was abridged. Play the full song, come on. And then that was it. I could really see, the set was what the set was. They weren't going to throw in anything bonus. I'm disappointed by that, and I feel like it is your last show. Do something special. At no point during the show did they ever acknowledge that anyone other than those 4 guys on stage were ever in the band. And I think that's a missed opportunity. I get it. They didn't want to bring the guys out. That wasn't going to be the case. I know in my last video I pleaded for Ace and Peter to just show up and maybe you can come on and take a bow with them or whatever. That clearly was not going to happen. But I don't see what would have been wrong with when the band is standing there saying thank you and, we never believed this would happen and yada, whatever Paul is saying, to on the back of the screen put a picture of everyone who's ever been in Kiss. Would it have been that hard at that point to just have to flash on the screen Ace, Peter, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Bruce Kulick? Everyone else was already there, so you don't need to do it for those other 4 guys. So would that have been hard? I mean, something. I don't know. I don't get that part of it. So then the show ended. Kiss said, we're talked about how they're not saying goodbye. There's a future. We're going to be doing all this other stuff. And then on the screen comes Avatar Kiss. This was their big thing that they've been waiting to announce for so long. Cartoon Kiss comes up and does God Gave Rock and Roll to You. Okay, which I've never liked their version of it. Number one, it's a cover. So why are you making an announcement about your new band to a cover song? That's number one. Number two, I've never liked the song to begin with. And then it's just these avatars. They're just not that cool. The idea is that this is going to be the future of Kiss, I suppose. And they have made it a point of saying, you know, it's not Ace Frehley, it's the Spaceman. It's not Paul Stanley, it's the Star Child. Okay, so they're branding it so that those individuals don't have to be there. Fine. However, these avatars look an awful lot like the current members of the band, except for Paul. Paul's looks kind of like a generic dude, like a guy in a Kiss tribute band. But the Spaceman sure looks like Tommy Thayer. The Demon looks like Gene Simmons. The Catman definitely looks like Eric Singer. So they're not generic. They're avatars of three of them, and then some guy being Paul Stanley. I don't know. I do not understand what they're going to be doing with this, what the future of Kiss is going to mean. I certainly wouldn't pay money to go to a theater or an arena or anywhere to see cartoons playing to Kiss records. What's the point? I don't see why any of you would either. Why? If they said, okay, Kiss is going to make new music, we're going to make studio albums because we have the time now or whatever, but then when we make a new video or we go out to promote it or whatever, for some reason, these avatars are going to be appearing instead of us. Okay. But again, that involves Kiss making new music. It's not involving a cartoon pretending to be Kiss doing. So I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe I'm just not grasping the concept. But what are they doing? What is the future? What is AI Kiss? I don't understand. If they're not going to be making new music, then it's going to be cartoons singing songs that we've already heard for the last 50 years. Explain to me how it's something different. But I did think it was kind of a disappointing ending to my favorite band, to 50 years in the game, going out on a average show with a kind of a mediocre performance by guys who were just a little too old and maybe in Paul's case a little too sick to really do it. And retirement seems like a pretty solid option at this point. So again, I didn't want to do a video and shit all over everyone's good time. All things considered, I'm glad I did the pay-per-view. I'm glad that I experienced it. I had a good time that day, feeling the vibes from the Three Sides fans. But yeah, they're not going to be vibing off of this video, I don't think, unfortunately. Take care, everyone.
So, you have a MySpace page or something?